Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. So this is my very late video for the August Wargamers Anonymous Painting Challenge from Phil over at Wargamers Anonymous. The theme this month was Cavalry, and it's taken me quite a while to get around to actually doing it. So here's my entry. Now I'm going to do it in two bases. There'll be some photos at the end, and I'll give you a bit of a history, but this is the first part, and I've chosen to paint some more heavy cavalry for my Yorkists, and this is one of them, and this is the Lord Fitzwalter, John Radcliffe, and his troop of cavalry. So I wanted to do a couple of commanders. You'll see the other one in a minute, and these guys will either form one large unit of cavalry, or they can be split down into two smaller ones. So I've done all of these following the same method that I set out in the painting guide that I did a couple of videos ago, so check that out if you want to see how I did it. And I've used flags from Fiztwalter, and then I've copied the livery onto this guy here, and I've converted him with an arm from the mercenary set. I've shaved off this arm here that's normally just holding the reins, if it will focus. Whoop. Here we go. So I basically cut this arm free and off. It came off surprisingly well, and replaced it with that arm. Now, if you want to see something amusing, when I was doing the arms, if you go to the live stream that we did on Monday, you'll see that I actually copied this coat of arms upside down, and I had to start all over again. But I'm really pleased with how that's come out. So that's Fiztwalter, John Radcliffe, and here's just some of the others. So I've tried to mix them up a little bit from what I did last time, just add in some interesting poses. Different types of lances. This is the base that I completed in my How to Paint the Mounted Men at Arms. So if you've seen that video, then you've already seen this one. And I will now just show you the other ones that have been completed. So here are the other three bases from the unit. And for this unit, I've based them up as Sir Richard Jenny. And from what I can see, this is the person I wanted it to be. There's a bit of a problem when you're researching the Wars of the Roses, that lots of people have the same name. It's all Richards, Georges, and Edwards, and Henrys. There's a lot of Henrys. But I believe I've got this right, that this is the Bastard of Salisbury. So this is the Warwick the Kingmaker's half-brother. So I've, again, copied the livery from the flag. That one was actually, surprisingly, this one was actually a lot easier than the other one. I think it's come out well. I'm pleased with it. And again, I've swapped around some arms and some heads from some of the other sets. Just added a typical Yorkist livery in there. And just tried to keep a nice uniform basing on them, which is this sort of moorland, scrubland look. Oh, no, I've already shown you that one. Here we go. Here's the other one. There we go. So these guys were quite interesting. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. But basically, there we go. I'll put him on here. These two gentlemen, John Radcliffe, this guy here, and who's Lord Fitzwalter, and Sir Richard Jenny, the Bastard of Salisbury, if I've got that right. They were both involved in the fight at Ferrybridge, which took place on the 28th of March in 1461. And this was basically a fairly large skirmish that was a prelude to the Battle of Towton. So without doing a full sort of review of the history of the Battle of Towton and what happened, once Edward IV started marching north, he reached Pontefract Castle, probably between the 25th and the 27th of March. He needed to get his army across the River Aire, and he sent John Radcliffe forward, Lord Fitzwalter, to secure the bridge at Ferrybridge. So if you're going up north and you get to Ferrybridge services, you'll see a big power station. That's where this battle took place. So at Ferrybridge, believe it or not, there's a bridge. There was another bridge further away at a place called Castleford, but that was prone to flooding, and he needed to secure a route over the River Aire so he could go and confront his enemies. So he sent this guy, Lord Fitzwalter, and a small force to secure that bridge. And there's a document that we still have, which is referred to as Hearn's Fragment, and that's actually the name of the guy that found it, not the person who wrote it, that deals with this period. And he described the men that Fitzwalter was leading as the forepickers of the Yorkist army. So I've taken that to mean a mixture of light and heavy cavalry, people who are going to move forward, take a position and make it ready. We know from descriptions that the bridge was fairly substantial. But given that the Lancastrian army has already crossed it, they've probably destroyed it. It would be not very sensible to leave it in one place. So it seems fairly likely that when Fitzwalter got there, which would have been on the evening of the 27th of March, his men would have started repairing the bridge, expecting the king's arrival on the next day so he could march his army over it. Now, the fate of these two guys wasn't great. So on the Lancastrian side, there's a guy called John Clifford, and he was a lord, and he definitely had an axe to grind. Everyone's got an axe to grind at this point in history. He had a proper axe to grind. He is credited with killing Edward's younger brother at the Battle of Wakefield, and that was partially in revenge for losses in his family. So Edward, he doesn't like Edward. Edward hates him. So any chance to attack the Yorkists he was going to take. So he was a sub-commander under Somerset for the armies that were arraying near Towton. So he was sent with a unit of lightly armed cavalry who've got a really cool name. We know what they were called, the Flower of Craven. That's just quite a cool name. So I'm trying to convince my opponent to make this unit. But we know that probably about 500 strong, and apparently they were renowned for their skill and valour in all the border fighting that would take place in this area. Judging by the Chronicle, it seems that they were incredibly loyal to Clifford. And what happened was they basically went and attacked really, really early in the morning, the bridge, and they wanted to capture it, destroy it, and force the Yorkists to fight their way across the river, which would then leave them weak, so that the main army that's near Towton would have a much bigger advantage. So I'm going to read you a quote now from Edward Hall, who was a contemporary chronicler, and I'll just give you an idea of what happened to these guys. So some of the language here can be a bit of a problem. I'll put up a caption, but here we go. So, the Lord Clifford, that's the guy who's been sent by the Lancastrians, determined, with his light horsemen, to make an assault to such as kept the passage of Ferrybridge, and so departed from the great army on the Saturday before Palm Sunday. So Towton was fought on Palm Sunday, for those of you who didn't know. And early, before his enemies were awake, got the bridge, and slew the keepers of the same, and all such as would withstand him. The Lord Fitzwalter, that's this guy here, hearing the noise, suddenly rose out of his bed, and unarmed, with a poleaxe in his hand, thinking it had been in a fray amongst his men, came down to appease the same. Before he could say a word, or knew what the matter was, he was slain, and with him, so too, the bastard of Salisbury, the brother of the Earl of Warwick, who is this fellow here. So basically, he didn't even get his armour on. He didn't even get this livery on before he was killed. So it was a surprise attack. They were still in their tents. He came out. I like to think he came out in a nightshirt, wielding a poleaxe. But before he could do anything, he was cut down by Clifford's men. The ensuing day, the Earl of Warwick approached the bridge, seeing that this first Yorkist force had been killed and the bridge was being dismantled again. He would then attack, and there would be quite a substantial engagement. Eventually, without going too far into it, the Yorkists did force their way. Edward sent a force under Lord Falkenberg to cross the river at Castleford, where the crossing was earlier, and then he circled all the way around and attacked Lord Clifford in the flank and caused him to flee, and ultimately he was killed as he was fleeing, or he was found by some archers and shot, legend has it, by an arrow without a tip on it, so that just went through his neck apparently. these guys didn't really have a, I'd say, particularly noble end, but they ultimately did further the cause of Edward and the Yorkists. And then the next day, Edward would fight his greatest battle and the biggest battle on English soil, and the bloodiest battle on English soil the next day at Towton. So what I'll do, I'll put these guys together so you can see them all, and I'll leave some photos up at the end. And I guess we'll wait to see what the challenge is next month. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you all again soon. Cheers.